Ryan Ruff, and he is with ASA Financial Technologies. And his fun fact is that he broke his leg as a kid, and it changed the trajectory of the rest of his life because he was the original casted character for Smalls in the Sandlot. So, right, that's what I said. So, Ryan, we'll let you take it from there, and I don't know if you can still see me, but I will give you a 5-minute warning.
Great, sounds good. I'm gonna see if my screen here will present. Can you guys all see my screen okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Great, so our company's ASA. It's named after Asa Whitney. He was the original proponent of the Transcontinental Railroad. So obviously he had this vision of connecting the East and West Coast of America, and that led to the Industrial Revolution and one of the greatest increases in quality of life in human history. And so what we're doing is we're trying to create some digital rails that are connecting the banking side of financial services to the fintech side, which are providing some pretty cool, interesting apps. And I see that, when we, sorry, I didn't see if it went back and forth there. When we do these presentations, it's something a little bit more of like a founder's journey. So rather than this isn't like an investor presentation or something where I'm trying to solicit, rather, I really would love feedback from all you guys. And at the end, since I'm doing this virtually, I put up something where you could set up a little 15-minute meeting with me to give me any feedback or anything. So a little bit about our journey. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I founded a company called SpendPal, had an incredible opportunity to spend 9 months at Duke University in their behavioral psychology research lab. And SpendPal is a tool that helps people naturally spend smarter without having to stick to a budget. And we saw some great results in testing with it. It nudges people to naturally spend smarter. And we tried to take it to market, and we weren't happy with the aggregators. So these are companies like Plaid, MX, Yodely. They couldn't provide a reliable enough connection for us to feel comfortable moving forward. At any given point, say 30 to 40% of our customers' accounts weren't being connected. So then we tried to go directly to banks and partner with them and get direct data from them to make our app work. And we got 2 bank partnerships. But when we did the math on it, the amount of due diligence and just the long sales cycle to do it, we realized it wasn't going to be a scalable model for us going one by one to the banks. So we were kind of stuck with, we've got this great app, we're trying to get it to market. We either have to pick between inconsistent data or an unscalable model partnering with banks one by one. We didn't like either option. And about that time, I met Landon Glenn. He was one of the owners of a company called Bonsai. And they actually did have some success doing partnerships with banks. They were able to go under Landon's leadership. They were able to go from 40 bank partners to over 800 bank partners in just a couple of years. So they had great success, and then he had an exit from that. But what was different about Bonsai is they didn't need any regulated data from the banks. They didn't need checking account data. They didn't need any live real data. It was just financial education, mainly for kids. And as they started to gain a lot of traction, they got into 50% of schools in America. The banks that they were partnered with said, hey, can we do this with our live accounts? Can we start doing this for adults? And when they looked into that, they saw that, it wasn't scalable. So they just kind of stayed in their teaching kids category where there wasn't much adult content. And so we linked up, and we were both facing the same problem. We saw other fintechs facing this similar problem. And so we decided to solve that. So that's where ASA comes in. So ASA is bridging the gap between fintechs like Bonsai and like SpendPal, allowing them to connect to financial institutions and get access to data in a way that's never been done before. So just to give you an idea of how this works, you can basically connect through the ASA platform any bank to any fintech solution. So say there's like a budgeting solution, like a mint.com or a YNAB is a very popular one. And you wanted to connect that to your bank, you could do that in a secure, compliant way that's reliable through the ASA platform. So when we talk about fintechs, what we're looking for is affinity-based solutions. And we look for, so things like, budgeting for millennials, or education apps, or entrepreneurship apps, just something that where they're picking a niche and saying, we are, we're rounding up your spare change and investing it for the LGBTQ community. Something pretty niche is what we're looking for on the affinity-based solutions. And then on the collaborative banking rails, ASA kind of sits in the middle. You got the affinity solution on one side that's providing this niche user experience, and then the primary solution is being provided by the financial institution. So with a primary solution, we're talking about like a safe and convenient place to deposit cash, to go access an ATM network, to pull money out. If you get fraud on your account, you can go in and talk with a live person. So this is a safe place to store your money. This is a cool niche user experience for visualizing and managing your money, and ASA sits in the middle. And the way ASA sits in the middle is with what we call the ASA Vault. And this gives total choice, control, and transparency to the end consumer. So the end consumer at any of our financial institutions can download this app and the ASA Vault, and they can see all the different fintechs that are available to them. And if you've ever tried to connect a fintech to your bank before, you probably recognize that you usually have to enter in your username and password. And with this, what you do is instead of entering your username and password, you just pick the app you want to use, you toggle it on, and then you can pick what data you want to share with it, and then you hit Try Fintech. And when you hit Try Fintech, it creates a link sharing your checking account data, your savings account, any data that you said that you wanted to share with it is automatically shared with the app. And then if you ever decide you don't want to use that app anymore, you could just toggle it off and it severs the data connection. And the reason why we're able to do this and stay compliant through this system is when ASA gets the data from the financial institution, we anonymize it. So instead of the fintech seeing this is John Smith's checking account and here's the account number, they see this is user VF9X2's checking account data, and any personally identifiable information is stripped out. Now, for almost all of fintechs, that's perfectly fine. They can get by with that, and it's actually preferable because if they were ever to get hacked or anything, that data can't be traced back to a person, and it lowers their risk and liability as well. So
7.5 minutes if you want to wrap it up.
Sure. Yeah, so I'll just wrap it up here. If you guys have extra questions about the collaborative banking rails and how it works, I'll leave this here. If you've got additional questions, or you want to build on the rails, or you just want to give me feedback, you can go ahead and hit this this link here. You can just take a picture of it and it'll bring you to the link where you can set up a meeting and give me any feedback you want.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's give Brian a round of applause. Do you have any specific requests for feedback?
Curious if the message came across clear to people, if they understood how it was different than some of the other aggregators out there. But just generally anything that comes to people's minds, if there's concerns or any advice.
Okay, anyone want to get us kicked off? James, I see you're on. This seems like your wheelhouse.
Yeah, James actually is the one who connected me to you guys.
Perfect. Okay. Anybody in the room? Ben?
I'll throw a question out. I'm not really sure it was necessarily the point of your presentation. I don't necessarily know. I understand the concept. I don't know who your customer is. I don't know how you make money. So So I don't necessarily understand the foundation of your company. And the other big question that jumped out to me was, you talked about your difficulty and Bonsai's difficulty with scaling connections with these banks, and yet your entire business premise is on becoming involved, having these partnerships with these banks, right? So how is it finding it easier or different to go to them and secure these partnerships as ASA versus what you were trying to do as a fintech?
Yeah. So I'll tackle that last one first. When you're going to them as a fintech, you're going to them as like a niche solution. So like SpendPal, when I'm negotiating with the financial institution, kind of the math they're doing is, what percentage of my customers are actually going to budget? Maybe 3-5%. I don't know if it makes sense for us to go through this whole due diligence process just to get another budgeting app that most people aren't going to use. But when ASA comes to them, ASA is saying, hey, we're bringing you budgeting, we're bringing you investing, we're bringing you a plethora of apps. So, you know, these apps maybe individually only account for 1, 2, 3% of your customer base, but collectively 88% of customers are using a fintech. So this is something where you can get a lot of customers using these friendly fintechs in a way that you only have to go through that due diligence and compliance once with ASA. ASA becomes the partner. We desensitize and anonymize the data so that the fintechs don't have to go through that regulatory burden on the back end.
So I use well, I guess I have two questions. One, is this only for apps? Because I use like a computer-based, web-based system that does Plaid or MX.
Oh, yeah.
And there's regularly at least one of my bank accounts that's broken every month when I go in.
Yep.
How, like, does it just have to be apps? And then how are you fixing what the problems that they're having?
Yeah, so no, it web-based solutions. We have several web-based solutions. And the way we're fixing it is we're getting direct partnerships with the banks, because the fintechs are signing an agreement to not be competitive with customers that they're receiving from these institutions. So the institutions are willing to give us a direct API directly into their core, and we're being able to get that at a faster clip than any of the other aggregators out there, because the other aggregators are basically, it's like the Wild West. Like if the fintech signs up with MX or Plaid, they can get access to the data, and then they a lot of times will try to siphon those customers out of their current bank account into joining their partner banks. And so a lot of the institutions don't want to give Plaid and MX and all these other all these other aggregators access. They actually block a lot of them. But with us, they're pushing their cores to get us integrated.
I'm wondering if your app is on the App Store and is it free or paid for?
I couldn't quite hear that.
She asked if your app is on the App Store and if it's free or paid for.
So it's a free app. It is currently in test flight. Anybody who wants to have access to it, we can get you the link. But it should be coming out of test flight here probably within the next week or two in our internal meetings. So we're fairly new.
So back to Ben's original question, how are you monetizing this?
So the fintechs pay, they pay per user per month for customers that we are sending to the fintech. So the way we figure that out is, let's say Sunshine Credit Union has a customer that downloads ASA Vault and starts looking through and finds a fintech they want to engage with. That fintech would be considered a referral from, or that customer would be considered a referral from ASA. So the fintech pays us for that referral. And then also the banks are paying a SaaS revenue model where they're paying us per customer per month for giving their customers access to friendly fintechs.
I feel like you have a follow-up, Denny.
So it's a typical, sorry, this is kind of, this is
But you're fine.
I understand, but so it's a typical two-sided market play, which
Yep.
is once you can get on the flywheel, it's great. That getting there is really hard, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering the analogy you use to get people to sign up with you. It may be like an Apple app store, maybe like a better way to kind of use it as an analogy. Like you're checking all those, little startup app developers, right? Making sure they're not siphoning the data, they're not, somehow trying to triangulate your personal information, even though it's anonymized, right? We check all those stuff, and then you present those set of apps to the bank. Say those are the safe ones because we have all those checkpoints, so you don't have to do your own due diligence. We done it for you, right? And then to the customers, right, the individual customers, you can say that, well, we did all those checks, your information is safe, right? All those banks signed up, right? So, which could be one of your banks. So you can trust us, you can be that intermediary, right? That's where the Apple Store app store really made a name for it. It's like, it's safe, we check, there's very rigorous steps. We make sure they're updated, all those things, and there's review process, right? People can write reviews. All those things are like adding value, and that's why people pay for both sides of the market, right? So I don't know, just an idea, but
Yeah.
That may be something you can pitch. And I don't know from the financial regulatory point of view, which is pretty complex, if your due diligence is okay with the bank side, that would be my question. If you did one set of due diligence, that's something that could be replicated, or every time you bring in new bank, they got their own different set of due diligence checkbox that you have to go through to present to them.
So basically, what is the due diligence that he has
Yeah.
to do for each one?
Yeah, we've got 10 institutions live. So obviously the first one was the most difficult. I would say about 80 to 90% of the due diligence is the same. There is some little nuanced things that happen between different institutions, but it's getting easier all the time.
All right, well, thank you so much for being here, Ryan. And if you want to pop up your QR code again, if anybody wants to schedule with you, you can do that. But let's give them another round of applause.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you. For those of you in the room, grab your second or first cup of coffee if you were late.
Brought his coffee with them. Right
And-
over the cold.
Ben will get himself, I know. And I'm only giving Ian a hard time. Ben will get
Yeah,
set up.
so-
So go ahead and grab your second cup of coffee. I would like my bank links to work every month when I log in.
Yeah, would be great. He was made for a long time. We kind of drifted away.
Oh, just mine.
Yeah.
Just mine. Yes.
This thing is really cool.
Except for I had to be noisy to get it to turn me. So I was like, yeah. we're fine.
So I
Doesn't quite work like that. If it did, I'd be a millionaire and I wouldn't be here.
You would have a lot of blackmail. I did have my babies, because I kept no babies at work.
Oh, yeah, yeah. What is?
So it's like, you know, you change your language. So like,
Or
it's
you
just fix-
got done.
So it like, it took to But she's half days, yeah, 3, 2 days to have my son.
Oh, I want to know all
So it
about
was
it.
like, did you watch it?
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
think, yes, so I think she was with Signorelli and then retained her own, because it's a really has one sister. I'm sure like she's
Yeah, pain, people, I've worked with a lot of people now, and it's
You can go.
mine, and people are like, oh, it's right here, I'm like, oh, it's not.
Yes, I was just having a slight disagreement with one of my college girlfriends, because I was trying to lay that as the preface for the next part of my story, but the next part of my story never happened. Because we guys didn't have the possibility that medical illness could have.
Oh, absolutely, there's a whole thing.
I can see how some of them.
Well,
but
yeah,
not my plants are bachelors.
A lot of people are identified with and never get them, never get them out of the original. And I try to talk to people.
Alright, so
I know.
I just
was
looked
gonna
at it,
say
I'm
that
like.
too. Yeah, but I was doing that the whole time. Okay, grab your seats.
Yeah,
That's important.
I prefer the other people's stories. I'll design you a nice slide deck, but you can.
Yeah, Chris, I didn't know you designed our handouts for our location. They were beautiful. That would have taken me for weeks.
That's what I
That's
do.
what you do. Yes. I hope, welcome. Thank you. Okay, we have our second presenter today, our very own Ben Vera wearing his 1 million cup shirt. Yes, he's modeling it beautifully, I think. And today he is representing Lovely Creator Space, and he knows how I set up these fun packs, so he like set it up for me, and I can't even spin it, but he has traveled 100 miles an hour. No big deal, except that he did not have an engine.
Engine attached. So I use an engine, and anyways, it was been skydiving. Jumped out of a plane at 10,000 feet, hit over 100 miles an hour on the way down, and it was freaking phenomenal. I've only done it once. It's a little expensive, but it is incredibly worth it, and I can't even describe it. You have to do it, and I recommend it to everybody. So if you ever get the chance to go skydiving, my wife made a mistake of saying that she wanted to do it, but she never really wanted to do it. She just said she wanted to do it, so I just bought tickets for her birthday one year. Her eyes got about this big when she opened them, but she loved it. And as soon as she hit the ground, she was ready to go back up again. Go skydiving. It's a hell of a time. Yeah, I'm Ben Vera. I am representing the Loving Creator Space today. Bear with me. This was a last second pivot. We lost one of our presenters, so I'm filling in. This is thrown together, but I've been a member for, I don't know, for the last 5 years. I did a 2-year stint out in Salt Lake City and came back. I said time right. All right.
You're 15 seconds in.
All right. So what is Lovely Creator Space? We are a nonprofit based in Loveland, Colorado, and our goal is to empower the community to create. So my ask for this presentation is, when thinking about nonprofits, how can you help create a culture of accountability in a volunteer organization? Anybody that's running nonprofits, executive director resources, anything from local community organizations, books, websites, anything that you can provide. Potential revenue suggestions for us as we try to scale up and get a little bit more sustainable in our revenue. And then also promoting diversity, equity, inclusion. I'll touch on that a little bit. So what's the problem? So we live in this like progressively digital world, but we still live in the physical world, right? We make things, we live things, we use them every day. But the equipment and skills used to create physical things can be very difficult or impossible for many people to access. And there's some reasons for this. Think about space, like most of us live in, it seems like our dwellings are getting smaller and smaller, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it creates some complications for how we get this equipment. The cost of the equipment. So there's a lot of things that we have in the space that are very, very expensive. We have multiple thousands of dollars worth of equipment in space. And then one of the biggest barriers is learning opportunities. So my grandpa, would be able to, you know, design, frame, and build a house. And yeah, I'd be lucky if I could, you know, put a box together. So it's one of those things where, as we kind of progressed away from this idea, this maker culture of necessity, that we've lost a lot of this opportunity, this ability to learn how to do these things. So the solution, and you'll see maker spaces, creator spaces, they're popped up all over the country, all over the world. So we're a community-centric nonprofit that tries to remove these barriers through a combination of aggregating resources. So we provide space, we provide equipment, and then sharing those costs amongst the member base. And we try to do things through you know, fundraising, we do grants, things like that. So adding accessibility to this problem. So our motto is we empower the community to create. So how do we do this? We empower. So we provide the space to work. So we have a space right in downtown Loveland. It's a large facility. We provide the equipment to work with. So we have a wood shop, metal shop, 3D printers, laser cutting, engraving, all kinds of really cool stuff, a welding station, and really, really interesting things that most people just have no access to otherwise. And then the big piece is the knowledge and confidence to get the work done. So knowledge is one thing. It's a table saw is a scary thing for a lot of people. It's a really scary thing. But we actually have a really amazing piece of equipment called a saw stop that you can, if you touch it, if you make contact with it, it actually drops the blade and stops it. So it's impossible to actually hurt yourself. So it's stuff like that. That's just, I didn't even know it existed before I put it. And it makes it a lot more palatable, a lot more approachable for people to start getting involved in using this type of equipment. So community. So what is a community? So we are a membership supported organization. So the members are kind of like trying to think of it in concentric circles. So we have our members, and then we have our geographic area. So there are maker spaces, creator spaces again spread out. There's one up in Fort Collins. There's Tinkermill down in Longmont. There's Solid State Depot over in Boulder, and they're all over the place. But we like to think of it as like, you know, what is our geographic area of people we serve? We have people that come in all the way from up really from down in Boulder. I think we even have someone that comes up from the north suburb of Denver, and a lot of it is due to the space and the equipment that we have available. And then Makers is a worldwide community, so you can go online and find all kinds of different resources from 3D printing and again laser cutting, engraving, you know, YouTube videos, what have you. It's a really, really interesting community, and a lot of very, very intelligent people that are very open to sharing what they're doing and how they're doing it. And then create's a very wide term. Like people get kind of like this mentality of, if you're not doing X, you're not creating, or if you're not doing X, you're not doing art, or if you're doing art, you're not you know, doing, you know, whatever. So I just have a couple of examples of things that we've done or have been done in the makerspace. So there's a windmill in Loveland at one of the historical sites that got broken in a storm. We actually brought it into the metal shop. We did a lot of repair work on it. It got brought back up to, or reinstalled at the historical site. The second picture is Enable Prosthetics. So there's a group that meets at the makerspace that works on 3D printing and providing prosthetics to kids and people that have had injuries. And then the last one is during the pandemic, there was a massive need for people to move home or do schooling at home. So someone in the space designed and put together what we call the Tiny Desk Project, which is a non-tool required assembly desk. So we produced a bunch of those and gave them away, and it's an ongoing program because it was so popular. So just some of the ideas, some of the things that are available to do or have been done in the space. And that's the long and the short. That's Lonely Creator Space in a nutshell. Again, the ask is just kind of some of these things that I've been working out with the community. I don't actually represent the community at all, aside from being an interested member. But I do kind of go to the board meetings to try to help out and try to help maneuver the organization in what I think is a positive direction. So that's Lonely Creator Space. I'm Ben Barrett. Lots of questions.
Oh, yeah. 5:57, even with the 15 seconds.
Point.
Nice. All right. Everybody want to get us kicked off with feedback for Ben?
I built my Burning Man art car there.
Burning Man is absolutely a regular thing that happens there. There's a couple of different groups that have in the past. And I think still, I know at least one guy that still works on burning projects there. Did some really interesting welding work for what I think was supposed to be a flaming like angel suit. So he built like a weld cage and then had like wings and stuff on it. It was really cool.
Are those all nonprofits that you listed one in Fort Collins, really.
I don't know the structures. I know there are a couple different structures. There are for-profit maker spaces and there are a lot of not-for-profit ones. I can tell you that Loveland Maker Space is a 501(c)(3).
Are they getting funding from?
So our primary source of funding is membership. So we have a monthly membership cost. We do occasionally get grants and we have a local family foundation, Arian, so ERION is a local Loveland family foundation that has supported, done extensive support for the creator space.
What is a monthly membership?
It's $60 a month. $60 a month gets you 24/7 access to everything.
How big is the community? You have any idea?
So the community, as far as the Loveland Creator Space, we're around, I want to say 75-ish members right now. I'd have to actually check the latest board meeting notes to see it. But again, as far as like the maker community, it's massive, right? Like there's a ton of people. Tinker Mill, I know down in Longmont has hundreds of members. They're large. They're a very large organization.
So what is the need, like you're saying the culture of accountability, what's the problem?
So one of the problems we have is it's a volunteer organization. So we have a board that meets once a month, and we're very slow to get things done sometimes because people have lives, right? And it's a volunteer organization, so there's not necessarily the incentive of I'm getting compensated to do this, or like I have you have to have the intrinsic motivation to make stuff happen. So that's just kind of a very broad swath of like how can we drive some incentive or help move things forward that need to be moved forward with the organization. And that's more of asking if anybody's been in a volunteer organization that's had these problems. I'm just fishing for ideas.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I used to do a lot of volunteer work when I also ran a nonprofit. So the group might want to consider a cadence of almost like onboarding volunteers, even though they're volunteers, to build a community of volunteers and that they feel empowered. What are we doing here? What do the roles look like? What is the commitment? But then they're also somewhat committed to each other. I've found that when I've experienced that or I've created that environment, people tend to commit, or we say, we need you at least for a season. Everyone good with that? And then usually they all want to continue on because they felt brought in and supported. But I think a lot of people are just like, we need volunteers. Just show up here, we'll tell you what to do. It feels very disconnected. They don't feel like they're part of anything. So it sounds simple, but I think that helps drive the accountability because then they start becoming a link to the group. And even if you put some things online, like if you forget what we go over during this 1 hour coffee orientation,
Write it down.
everything's online for you to access whenever you need it.
And that's one of the big things I've been pushing the last 4 to 5 months or so is getting people kind of try to coalesce around the vision of empowering the community to create. Like giving what's that anchor point that we're all saying like, hey, this is why we're here. It's not just a place to go and make stuff and have an extension of my garage or like cool things happening. Like if we're responsible for this organization, this is the reason that we're here.
I think Hope makes an excellent point too, because if our group was like, we're all just organizers, I might not show up. But I have to, because I run the
Because you got a
meeting,
job,
right?
right?
Because I
You got a
have a
responsibility.
job that I am responsible for, and if I'm not here, I have to find somebody else to do it for me. So I think that is really big. And that no way in hell would I be on the organizing team if I had to do Natalie's job.
Different strengths for different folks.
Exactly.
She absolutely killed it. Like Natalie, and just a plug we'll do at the end, but Natalie is our organizer, scheduler. Like she makes it happen. Like she puts people in front here every week. And
Which is why
she kicks ass.
Because when somebody drops out at the last minute, Natalie's going, okay, I've emailed this person, and this person to fill in. So I think that that's a big piece of volunteer organization is that each person has something that they are responsible for. And if they don't do it, they have to find someone to replace them.
Oh, and I forgot to get to it, but the promoting DEI, so a lot of maker spaces, creator spaces, you'll find the demographic trends to older, male, and white, and mostly affluent. So it creates a challenge in the organization in that, like any organization, you get kind of model thinking and like you lose a lot of perspective that can help grow and serve the community. So that's the idea of promoting DEI. And I know, again, just looking for people that have had experience with nonprofits, any kind of opportunities or things that have worked in the past is things that I'm interested about.
Having a high school like club or something might be a way to get past the old piece. If you could, I've met a few few women welders, if you had them leading it, that might get your young women interested.
As I was actually gonna say, intergenerational is also from a DEI. I think high school could be an opportunity to get some greater diversification there.
Might not start even younger, right? Because I've been to enough middle school, elementary school classrooms, and inevitably they got some grant or something and they bought one of those cheap 3D printers, which is collecting dust somewhere, you know, and it's like, well, what happened? It's like, well, you know, this plastic reel thing, it's super expensive. I didn't know that. So machine was whatever, you know.
Consumable cost.
Yeah.
catch up with you, right?
By $500,
Yeah.
but like then we realized it's $200 to buy or, you know, plastic to make 3D stuff. And it's like, and it, you know, something went wrong and I didn't know how to fix it. So, you know, thanks for that $500 grants from somebody to buy the machine, but we used it once and it's sitting there, you
Yeah.
know. But bring those kids to a field trip there to watch them, you know, show them the real 3D printer that, you know, print real stuff.
And then bring it back to like the whole like knowledge and confidence thing. So that is another like area of opportunity. The next step for me is like, we need to do more from a programming perspective. Like we need to build actual paths of access for people and targeted groups, maybe it's junior high, high school, whatever it ends up being. But we need to, right now, we're basically a space and equipment and we struggle, we fail, in my opinion, we fail at the knowledge and that's interesting. Today I learned, we're not doing a good job at the knowledge and confidence part. And I think as a result, we're struggling with membership. So we have, I don't want to say, we have a very solid core of members, but we have a decently high turnover. So we have people coming and going every month and we don't necessarily understand why. So one of the big things that I've advocated and pushed for recently and set up was an exit survey. When someone decides they want to cancel their membership, why? We need data to answer those questions, figure out what we're not doing, what we need to do better. And the lack of access to classes or any kind of like experiential community activity is a big part of the reason. So we do the first two things really well. The third thing is a major opportunity for us.
The revenue question that you had, you could do kids summer camps and nonprofit is not unpaid. So you could pay somebody to run the summer camp. But I mean, you know, like my friend sent her daughter to a surf camp for 3 hours a day for 2 weeks. That was $250. So it's not unpaid for your revenue sources. Right, bring us home.
I was just gonna say that maybe you could offer like a really cheap membership to teenagers, just give them something, like 20 a month or something. Because my high school had a maker studio and we also had a popular maker's camp, so.
Maker's Fair.
Yeah.
They're definitely a thing. And that's a community events, social events. We did have I didn't like the term, but we had a starving maker, membership that was at the cap price. It was like $30 a month or something before. That the decision was it was getting abused, so they got rid of it. But yeah, making it somehow more accessible, whether it's through some sort of co-op program, volunteer program, whatever it ends up being, it's definitely a potential opportunity.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you all.
And nice work for your 5:56 with very little time to prepare. All right, so to wrap us up today, who has a win? Who has a resource that we need to know about or who needs help?
I'll throw it out there. So you mentioned earlier, but mymain.com, Peter and Beth Boswick are putting it together. It's a local, I don't want to say local, it's a regional, I guess is what you would probably call it, platform that they're working to build and bring together resources, events, the entrepreneurship community, all the local resources like the SBDC, and make it really have kind of like this one-stop shop for people to be able to access this community or connect with the community. So it's mymain.com, MAINN.com. Check them out. They're good people.
I have a win, it's very small, but I found out about 1 million cups from Peter And my win is that I actually came because I am a W-2 and I always have been, but I have this idea. And so I'm trying to take steps to further that idea. But I have to admit that coming here was a little intimidating, but I still did it. So.
Were you raising your hand?
It is okay. Yes, I'm relaunching my business, as you know, and I am looking to do some pro bono work for nonprofits in the area of retention and attraction of employees. It's my specialty, and I'm new to this area again, so I'm just wanting to kick it off by, if you know of any nonprofits that could use help in that area, please let me know.
I see Hope's face looking.
Well, I was just thinking, I was wondering if you were connected to the nonprofit librarian here at the Harmony Ranch and also United Way. There might be some people that could help spread the word about what you do.
Okay, sure, thank you.
Any other requests for help or resources we know about? And I'm like racking through my brain.
And I don't know what I missed at the beginning. Did we talk about any of the?
We did community events, but if you want to share one now, you totally can. We'll let you do that.
I was just making sure if there were any classes coming up here that everyone knew about, and then our networking next week. We already have those.
Yeah, both.
Sally's so good.
I know. That's right.
Even though one of the classes that she was promoting was directly competing with our time slots. So I don't know.
It's true. It's true. We're like, we won't talk about that.
A big thank you to the SBDC for hosting us here and all the help with the setup and everything. Appreciate you both.
And you said next week we're down the hall. Right?
Yes,
From
from
here on out.
143 will be, the rest of these sessions here will be.
That's down the hall.
Do you have the dates that we can go?
No.
I think the next one is
Next week? Anybody want to present next week? It's only 6 minutes.
If I get time.
Like, is Natalie in France?
Yes.
She is.
Natalie is- she's
No,
literally-
but people like backed out, you know, that happens, if somebody backs out in the last minute. So you need a filler. I'm already on the schedule for the 24th, and as Ben was doing his, I was like. 6 minutes, it's hard. Ben made it.